like to welcome you all to our Utah Tech Online Faculty Workshop, accessible by April. And this is all about getting your Canvas courses ready for the new ADA regulations, which are in force in April 2026. So again, thank you for attending. It's great to see you all. If you have questions during the workshop, please feel free to post any questions you have in the chat, and we'll plan to try and address them during this session. I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers. I guess I'm the first one. So I am Dr. Terry Brandenburg. I'm the manager of online teaching advancement at Utah Tech Online. I lead the online teaching certification program and enjoy supporting faculty in developing high quality, accessible online learning experiences for students. Before coming to higher education, I spent several years in the software industry, and I worked on initiatives to make interactive courseware and websites more accessible. And I also worked for a US senator who helped sponsor the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is arguably one of the most significant pieces of legislation at our time, but it was passed in 1990, and that experience and other experiences inspired my ongoing commitment to accessibility in learning. Okay, our second presenter today will be Scott Allen. He is the Senior Learning Management Systems Administrator at Utah Tech University, where he manages all things Canvas, and he supports integrations that enhance teaching and learning. So he's there for you, faculty. With more than 2 decades of experience in instructional design and educational technology, Scott has worked at Weber State University, the Utah Education Network, often known as UEN, and Ogden Weber Tech College. Scott holds a Master of Science degree in Instructional Technology and a Bachelor of Science in Statistics, both from Utah State University. Scott is passionate about using digital tools and thoughtful course design to enhance teaching and create engaging, accessible, and high-quality learning experiences for students. Then we have two presenters from our newly named Disability Center, now called the Accessibility and Disability Center. Bako Wahabu is the director of the ADC at Utah Tech, and he has more than 15 years of experience and dedicated leadership where he strives to inspire positive change. Bako leads initiatives that support faculty in providing ADA accommodations and ensuring legal compliance. He has a background in special education, and he is passionate about advancing equal access and supporting post-secondary students with disabilities. Bako earned his bachelor's in educational psychology from the University of Cape Coast, Ghana, and a master's degrees in educational leadership and public administration from Southern Utah University. And our final presenter is Malia Ridd. She is the coordinator of the Accessibility and Disability Center at Utah Tech, where she supports students with disabilities and collaborates with faculty to ensure accommodations are effectively implemented. She leads about 15 to 20 student volunteers each semester who promote accessibility and awareness across campus. And Malia is a proud Utah Tech graduate with a degree in English, and so she brings both institutional knowledge and compassion to her role. Before joining Utah Tech in 2024, Malia spent over 6 years in management at Caption Call, supporting the deaf and hard of hearing community. And she also served with AmeriCorps and the American Red Cross, presenting on disaster preparedness for vulnerable populations. As a person with disabilities herself, Malia brings empathy and lived experience to her work. So welcome to all of our presenters. Let's go ahead and dive right in to our agenda for today's accessibility workshop. Well, I do want to let you know that all of us have teams that we work with to help support you as instructors, as faculty here at Utah Tech, and so you're not alone in making your courses accessible. So you have UT Online, where you can consult with your learning designer about any accessibility issue or any course design issue. You also have the help desk for technical support, and you have the ADC, or for help with accommodations. So our agenda today, I'll give an overview of the new ADA accessibility requirements for digital content. And Scott will then dive into Canvas and show us our Canvas tools that to help us identify and fix accessibility issues. And then, then Bakwa and Malia will talk about dealing with accommodations and how you as faculty have support. So let's go ahead and talk about why we're having to talk about this topic at this time. Well, it's because there's a new rule that impacts accessibility in our online courses. And that new rule is in Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it states that state and local governments, including public universities like ours, must ensure all services, programs, activities, including online learning, are accessible to individuals with disabilities. So this rule applies to all campus websites and mobile apps, but today's focus is on making sure our Canvas course content is accessible. So we're focusing just on Canvas today. The new minimum requirement for accessibility is what ADA Title II has adopted, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, also known as WCAG or WCAG. So we'll be referring to WCAG as the official standards, technical standards for accessibility of digital content. You may be familiar with some WCAG standards already without knowing, such as alt text descriptions for images, captions and transcripts for videos, having sufficient color contrast, keyboard navigation, clearly defined and structured headings and labels. We'll take a look at these and other important WCAG standards in just a minute. But we're hoping that your key takeaway is a better understanding of these key accessibility standards and how to apply them in your Canvas course or courses. Just as a quick reminder of what accessibility means in relation to our Canvas courses, accessible means a learner with a disability is afforded the opportunity to acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services as a learner without a disability, just as effectively, within the same time frame, and with substantially equivalent ease of use. So the learning experience doesn't have to be identical for students with disabilities, but it must provide equal opportunity to the learning and the benefits of your course. So think of accessibility as making sure your online course materials, activities, and assessments work for all your students. Okay, let's move on. Why does accessibility matter in your courses? Well, it is the law. It has been the law, but now it's the law with more teeth. So now they're using those WCAG standards, those web accessibility guidelines, to evaluate whether our Canvas courses meet the standards of the law or not. It is also a best practice for quality online teaching, and we've adopted that into Utah Tech policy. Policy 601B states that all of our materials and resources are digitally accessible, readable, and meet current standards for web accessibility. We've used Quality Matters standards and the Online Learning Consortium quality scorecard, as well as other resources to establish that policy. Well, and also, just as a rising tide lifts all boats, when making courses accessible to people with disabilities enhances the learning experience for everyone. Or in other words, when we clear a path for people with disabilities, we clear a path for all learners. Curb cuts in sidewalks at intersections were first required nationwide under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, to provide wheelchair access. Well, we know that was in 1990, right? So that law's been around since 1990. Now curb cuts benefit everyone: parents pushing strollers, travelers rolling luggage, cyclists, and delivery workers. Well, in the same way, accessibility features in online courses improve learning for all students. For example, captions on videos help not only people with hearing loss, but also English language learners and students working in either noisy or very quiet environments. Captions can boost focus, comprehension, and memory for all learners. Well, what are these WCAG standards? They are a set of standards from the World Wide Web Consortium to create accessible websites. I'm going to click on that link, and I'm hoping you're seeing all these web content accessibility guidelines. Well, there's almost 100, but I think there's 80 guidelines. So you can see I'm still scrolling and scrolling, and at the risk of making anyone motion sick, I can tell you that, and by the way, you're still seeing my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Maybe we'll make it easier to see that screen. We've made it easier for you, and we boiled it down. So this is a graphic that shows how the WCAG standards are basically 13 guidelines organized under 4 principles of web accessibility. And that lays the foundation necessary for anyone to access and use web content. Those 4 principles are, for example, perceivable. That means learners can perceive or receive the information. They can either see it or hear it or feel it. They can access your course content in the way that works for them in multiple ways. It can't be invisible to all of their senses. So for example, text, video, audio. A few examples of perceivable text alternatives are descriptions for images, so that a screen reader user who has low vision can understand what the visuals are. Images without alt text are often ignored by screen readers, so a person who is blind or has low vision can't see what your images are. Time-based media typically involves captions and transcripts for video and audio. Other things are readable contrast, making it so that the text is distinguishable. For example, I have color blindness that runs in my family, and by the way, about 8% of the population is colorblind, meaning not that they're blind to color, but they can't easily distinguish certain colors. And my nephew is colorblind, and he couldn't see the table of contents of an online textbook because the text had sufficient contrast. It was kind of pink text on a red background, and he couldn't distinguish the text. He couldn't see it. So definitely having high enough contrast is one of those issues. Operable, learners can navigate the course content independently using their preferred tools, such as a keyboard or a voice command, not just a mouse. So while perceivable is about receiving information, operable is all about acting on that information, clicking, scrolling, or submitting answers. So we want to make sure that our course content is accessible not just through a mouse, but also through a keyboard, that we give students sufficient time to read and interact with the content, that there's no flashing content that could cause seizures or other physical reactions. And then definitely we want to make sure the navigation is clear and easy to support all of those modalities, all of those input modalities, including the keyboard, as well as touching, tapping, swiping, pinching, voice commands, head pointers, things like that. So understandable, definitely, well, it means users must be able to understand the information as well as the operation of the user interface. So clear instructions, predictable layouts, predictable navigation is always helpful. And then robust just means that users can access the content as technologies advance. For example, using accessibility checkers to identify issues is an issue. So anyway, there's these 13 guidelines underneath these 4 principles, as well as 3 conformance levels that we'll talk about. We have boiled these down for you in an accessibility checklist. It's actually on our Utah Tech Online website. When you go to online.utah.tech.edu and you click on Teach Online, you'll see an option for accessibility. And there is a checklist as you scroll down that highlights some of the most common accessibility issues that we encounter here at Utah Tech. and it also tells you how you can address that. So, for example, if I go to link text, well, the concept is clearly describe the destination and purpose of hyperlinks. I talked to a friend of mine who's blind just yesterday, and I asked him, if you could give one word of advice to people who are designing online courses or websites, what would you say? And he said, label the stupid links. So excuse my Utah French, but that's what he said. Too often links are labeled as click here, and that's not helpful for a screen reader that someone who is blind or has low vision uses. So make the links descriptive and let them know where that's going. So that's just one example. And now we'll go ahead and continue on with our presentation, and Scott Allen is going to talk about more Canvas tools to help you identify and fix accessibility issues using the Ally Accessibility Report and the built-in Canvas accessibility checker. So I'll turn the time over to Scott.
All right. Terry, can you allow me to share? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, hopefully that's going to be coming up real quickly. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right, so I think I'm going to show you some of the slides first, and then I'll jump live into Canvas to show you. But these are the main two tools within Canvas. The Ally Accessibility Report, which is a third-party tool that's integrated with Canvas, and then internal to Canvas, wherever you have the rich content editor, you have the accessibility checker as well. So these are the top 5 accessibility issues we see at Utah Tech through the Ally report. So the number one by far is that images don't have a description. So fixing that issue alone is going to resolve a lot of the issues that we're seeing within online courses in Canvas. And then another one that we see a lot is contrast issues in documents. And that's a little bit harder to fix, but you can get with one of the UT Online designers and they can help you with those kinds of issues. Or another thing you might want to do is use this time for making your courses accessible to go through and clean out all the junk. A lot of these courses I know have been copied from term to term to term, and some of the things that we have in there aren't even used anymore. So we can cut down on a lot of these issues by just taking out some of the old content. But the number 3 issue here is documents that don't have images, or that have images, but the images within the documents don't have descriptions. So if you take number 1 and number 3, they both apply to images that don't have a description. Just one is images that are linked directly in a course and others that are within a document. So the number 4 issue is that documents don't have any headings, and then the 5th issue is the documents missing a title. Okay, so to get to the Ally Accessibility Report, you do that through the course menu in Canvas. You see over on the left, you'll see something labeled Accessibility Report. And if you don't see that in your course menu, I'll show you how you add it. And then once you click on it, you see something like is on the right side of the screen here, which shows the content and then some options for fixing that content or making it more accessible. Ally will also create alternative formats to files that you upload that appear within the files in Canvas, and that does that automatically for you. So we'll show you how that works. And then once you've uploaded the files, then over on the right side, you'll see a dial, which is either indicating with green, yellow, or red how accessible it is. And then I believe you'll have access to these slides later on, but I linked to the Blackboard who who is the company behind Ally, their website that has the full documentation. Once you're within the Ally accessibility report, you'll get some information over on the right on what to do to fix those issues. But if you want more details, you can go into this. And then the second tool, like I mentioned, is the accessibility checker in the rich content editor. And that appears down at the bottom where you see the arrow pointing it to it. And we'll look at examples of that as well. And so with the Canvas accessibility checker, similar to Ally, it will give you some suggestions on how you fix those problems. Okay, and so let's jump out and we'll go into Canvas now and see how this actually works. So I've got a course here. This was a Management 3400 course that was taught in 2021 when we were still Dixie State University, but we're going to use this just to go through as an example. So the first thing you do to find the accessibility report, it should be somewhere within the course menu. And if you don't see it, you can click on Settings within the course and then click on the Navigation tab. And any of the tools that appear within the menu that you see over here should be in this upper section. So the accessibility report would probably be down here, and you would either need to just drag it up and place it where you want it, or click the dots and select Enable. And then be sure to go down to the very bottom and click to save your changes once you have done that. Otherwise, it won't change anything. But once you have the accessibility report, you just click on it, and it's going to give you a score for this course. So this course is actually not too bad. It's got a 72% accessibility score. And then you can see of those things that need fixing, where those are, whether they're Word documents, presentations, PDF documents, which in this course, it's very heavy in those three things that need fixing. And then you can see the other things in the course. And you could click on View, and it's going to show you the individual things, or you can select the Content tab that does the same thing. But go back to the overview. Where I think you ought to spend most of your time is in this section over here, where it says Content with the easiest issues to fix. So we like to start with easy, right? And I think that's the best way to approach it. The other way is maybe looking at some of the lowest scoring content first. Now, usually these are harder fixes, so I'd recommend starting with the easiest issues, and then if you wanted to go further or take care of some of the most serious issues, then you can go down to the low scoring content. And then down below, it also lists the issues and how many things in your course have that issue. So we can see this document is scanned but not OCR'd. There's only one of those. But the document contains images without a description. There's 181 of those. And those happen to be all in this section as well. So let's start with the easy button. We'll click on the content with the easiest issues to fix, and then it's going to bring that up, and we'll go right to the top. This is an image. It only has one issue, and it's got a 25% score. So I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to open a new tab. It's going to show the image. In this case, it tells you what the problem is. This image is missing a description. And then if you want to see, well, what does that mean? You can click on it, and Ally provides a little support for you. So an image description, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. An image description, sometimes referred to as an alternative description or alt text, is textual alternative for an image. This is what the screen readers use to describe what that image is for someone who is blind or has low vision. So in this case, there's 2 pages, so you can see why describing images matters, and a little bit about how to write a good description here. So this is really good information that Ally provides based on whatever it is that you need to change. So what you could do is describe this image to fix it and put this in the box right here. Um, that might take you a little bit of time to figure out what you should do to give a good description for somebody who's blind. But now that we have AI, there's the easy way to do it. Auto-generate description. So you click this button. I've found that usually this does a really good job, and it's not too long, but it gives a general idea of what that image is. So in this case, it says a hand points to ethics surrounded by related concepts like integrity, honesty, fairness, and responsibility connected by arrows. So pretty good description. I'm just going to click add. So now it has applied that alt text to the image, and it now has a score of 100. So I fixed that issue, and now it disappears from the list. I can go on to the next one. This happens to be the same kind of an image. It's missing a description. Here's a different graphic. We'll auto-generate again. And I'm not going to read it, but we're going to click on add. Then we've improved our score there. Okay. Now, this next one's going to be the same issue, but let's look at a different issue. We've got a Word document this time. And so it's going to load a preview. And remember, this was when we were still Dixie State University. So this is a really old one, Dixie State College of Utah. But it's really the same issue. It's an image that doesn't have a description, but that image is within a Word document. So you can read what it means and how to add descriptions. But unfortunately, it's not as easy. You can't just click a button to replace it. So what you can do is download the image. You can click this button up at the top here to download, not the image, but its original Word doc. So I'm going to pull over the Word doc for you. It's just a second here. All right, let's make it a little bit bigger. So notice we've got this image up here, and even images within documents need to have descriptions. So to do that within Word, you can right-click on it and select Edit Alt Text. So in this case, we probably want to either remove that image completely and have it without images, or what we could do is right-click and select change picture, and maybe we replace it from online sources. Let's see if we can find a Utah Tech logo. And there's one. We could just click on there and click on insert, and it actually puts some other text in there. So I'm going to delete that text. But now we've got the updated logo. So I still need to add the alt text to it. So I'm going to right click and select edit alt text. And let's just say Utah Tech logo. And I believe it saves it there. So I need to resave this file. And then what I'd need to do is just browse and upload that new version to fix that problem. Okay. All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on, and let's go back to the accessibility report here. So I would definitely go through those easiest to fix items. And again, if you need help, you can always contact one of the learning designers with UT Online, and they'll be able to help you. let me show you another thing that within Canvas, on any page with the rich content editor, in this case, we're going to look at the syllabus. So we'll click the edit button. And then down at the very bottom here, you see this little person with a circle around it. And this has some issues. So there are 65 issues within this syllabus that we can use the accessibility checker within Canvas to get some information about what those issues are. So in this case, a lot of these issues are around this table. So tables should include a caption describing the contents of the table. So maybe this caption should say, this is the grading criteria, I believe. And then click apply. And then here's one that the table needs a header. So let's do the header row. And then we've got an issue where there's a contrast, the text right here, the black text against the gray background is causing a problem. So there are several issues, and rather than fix them all, I'll just kind of page through here. Here's another one. It's showing each cell of this table has that same contrast issue. And now we've got another contrast issue with the green text against a white background. That's not enough contrast. So you would want to choose something that's darker. Maybe that might work and apply. So you see a lot of these are contrast issues in this table is what we're dealing with. And you can use the accessibility checker within pages, within discussions, within anything that has the rich content editor here in Canvas. Okay, I'm going to move on. So we're going to go back here. So the other thing that you might want to do to create accommodations for test takers is to use the moderate exam feature in Canvas to give accommodations for individual students. So one of the common accommodations is that certain learners may need time and a half on quizzes. So I've linked the ways to do this for both classic quizzes and new quizzes. And I'll just bring up the guide for classic quizzes. So here it is. So you open the quizzes. In this case, it's a history overview. Then over on the right side, you would click on moderate this quiz. And then you'd select for whichever student. It'll show all your students in the class and whether they have an attempt in process or they have attempted it. But you would click on the pencil icon in this case. And this shows some other things you can do, but you would click the pencil icon, and then from there, you would be able to allow that person not only just the regular time, but you could allow him extra time on that exam, or you could allow an extra attempt or something like that. Okay, I am going to go ahead. There may be some questions later on, but I'm going to turn the time over, turn it back to Terry, and we can go on.
Great, thank you, Scott. And by the way, just as another reminder, if you have any questions, you're not alone. Scott can help answer questions, as well as your UT online learning designers. We're now going to shift and turn some time over to Bako Wahabu and Malia Rid of our Accessibility and Disability Center to teach us about how you can deal with student accommodations and what other partnerships and collaborations and resources that you as instructors have at your disposal. So I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Bako and Malia.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. And bear with me, I'm not feeling very well, so my voice is a little crappy. So, but I hope you guys can hear me. Can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. So let's go to the next slide, and we would just kind of go over a few things. Some of them Terry and Scott already mentioned, but we just want to re-emphasize how important it is as faculty teaching online courses, how to make sure if you do all this, there will still be some issues or some students that might need additional support in spite of all your efforts. So first of all, you want to make sure that students know if they need accommodations, how to request the accommodations. So always make sure that the accommodation statement, accessibility and accommodation statement is in your syllabus. And if you have a habit of, say, recording introduction to your students in video, please mention it. It's very important that they hear you mentioning about it and talking about it, just emphasizing how important this is. Let them know that you won't be able to do anything for anybody unless they go through the right process and right channel. And that would be through the information in the syllabus. And also expectations. Some of our students, their comprehension levels are different, or they need to be instructed directly on what your expectations are. So always make sure that what you expect of them are very stated clearly in your syllabus so that they know what your expectations are. And of course, during presentations or during the instructions, students learn in different forms and they have different challenges. So let's make sure that we are varying our in presentations in the form of, we have videos with captions on them, and we have projects, and we have demonstrations, and if we have lectures, then we have all different multiple ways that we presenting the information to students so that students come in different forms and if they learn in different ways. If we present in one particular model, we might be losing some of our students' comprehension and understanding some of the best way we want them to learn. And of course, videos must always have captions. And like Scott said, if you need help with any of those things, you can always contact them. They would help you with captioning and putting transcriptions on lectures, things like that. Very important. Let's go to the next slide, Terry. Accessible accommodation and interactions. Some of our students might be visually impaired. They might have low vision or they might be totally blind. And with technology now, they are taking online classes. So they are using technology to learn. So if we don't make sure that the screen readers or all the information we are provided are screen reader friendly, then they are going to experience challenges, and sometimes we might not be available immediately to help them. So let's make sure that we are choosing screen reader friendly materials for our low vision students. And students learn multiple ways: through chat, through visual chat, through other two charts and diagrams and other discussion platforms. So all those things are important for us to utilize. And during assessment, it is also important for us to provide students with opportunities, different forms. Sometimes we might say students should record themselves and present a demonstration. Sometimes some students might have difficulty recording themselves and presenting it. We should give them other options to demonstrate that they have learned the material that we want them to learn. Apart from written tests, there might be other forms that they can demonstrate that they have learned. And also with technology, let's ensure that functions, like all functions, work by keyboard. So any of the functions that we can use a mouse to perform, then a keyboard alone should also be able to perform those functions without a mouse. There are some students that might not be able to use a mouse due to a disability. So any action that we are going to expect a keyboard to perform, either through using mouse, we should be able to perform it through using a keyboard alone. So those things are very important for us to keep in mind when we are doing online teaching, so that we are thinking about our students who need equal access. I will hand over to Malaya to discuss the next slides.
Okay, reasonable accommodations and legal protections. Accommodations must be reasonable and cannot fundamentally alter the essential elements of a course. For example, a student may have the accommodation to attend class via Zoom. However, we cannot expect a lab to have that accommodation. That would not be reasonable. The same, we cannot allow nursing students to be excused from clinicals or teachers from practicum, things of that nature that would interfere with the essential elements of the course. The ADA ensures equal access while protecting the integrity of your program. If you as a faculty member ever feel that an accommodation interferes with the essential elements of the course, please contact us. We'd be happy to discuss those and come up with a solution. Next slide. Understanding invisible disabilities. Not all disabilities are visible. Please avoid any assumptions. It's important to avoid making those assumptions about those who do or do not look disabled. Many conditions like ADHD, anxiety, and depression are eligible for services, support, and accommodations through our office, even though they aren't often considered a disability. That's one of the reasons why we changed our name. The name Disability Resource Center seemed to be exclusionary for those who didn't consider themselves disabled necessarily. So we've changed our name, and please update your syllabus with our new name and our new location. It is more accessible here in the Holland building. There will be a lot of students who approach students and say, I am really depressed, I am having a hard time. Please refer them to us. A lot of students don't understand that depression, anxiety, ADHD, all of those things, we can provide support for that. So please refer them to our office. We want to be able to help them. If you receive an accommodation notice from our office, please don't try to determine yourself whether that is a valid accommodation or whether that student needs it or whether they can manage without it. Our office makes those determinations to ensure students are appropriately supported, but also to protect you from liability. If you put that judgment call in your hands, you may be liable to litigation or discrimination. We want to protect you as much as possible. The ADC's role is to uphold students' rights and to safeguard our faculty by ensuring the university stays compliant with the ADA. Next slide, Terry. Faculty rights and responsibilities. Faculty have the right to ask the ADC for clarification about any approved accommodations or whether the accommodation interferes with the essential elements of the course. We want to help you with that. We want to make sure that there's no interference there. Please reach out to us. It's important to hold all the students to the same academic standards. Do not grade the registered student any differently from your other students. There is no curve. There is no difference in how you grade them. Once you receive an accommodation letter, you're responsible for implementing those supports in your class. And finally, always protect your students' privacy. Never discuss accommodations publicly or share information with anyone who doesn't have a legitimate need to know. Next slide. I'd like to take this moment to answer some frequently asked questions because they occur very often. Exam accommodations apply only to quizzes or exams that are more than 20 minutes long or more than 20 minutes in length. If it's shorter than that, the accommodations do not apply. You do not need to extend those. The ADC Testing Center provides distraction-reduced testing environments and reader accommodations for students who need them. You as a faculty do not need to apply those accommodations yourself. Your students will schedule their exams with us through our website with at least one business day's notice so that we can communicate with you on what materials are allowed and passwords and give you that time to take their exam. Remember that accommodations are not retroactive. They only apply once you receive that notification. That can happen anytime in the semester. We don't just accept them during the first bit of the semester. So I've sent accommodation notices today, but they didn't apply before today. They only apply once you receive that notification. Finally, try to be flexible with due dates when appropriate. Flexibility can make a big difference in supporting your student success. If a student has the flexibility with due dates accommodation, it applies only when the student requests it. It's not an automatic default for every assignment. And we recommend a 2-day extension. So it's not an unlimited golden pass, and it doesn't open closed assignments. So these are the clarifications that we want to be able to discuss with you and converse with you if you ever have any questions. Um, and that's all I have to present. I assume we'll have questions and answers portions later.
Yes, definitely. And thank you, Malia and Baco. That's probably one of the next steps, an action item that instructors should take from this presentation. I heard update your accessibility commitments in your syllabus to include the new name of the Accessibility and Disability Center, and as well as their new location. And then contact the ADC when accommodations are needed for students. They can help. Also, I would be interested, if you want to learn more about this topic, you might use this as an AI search. I put it in the chat. Have AI, and you can modify that as you need, but I found it interesting to have AI list and describe the range of disabilities that college students may have, and that you as instructors might encounter in your online courses. And then ask it to include examples of how those different types of disabilities might affect their learning and participation, and even ask how you can help. Well, definitely one action item that I'd like to give you all is this accessibility challenge. To make sure you run the Ally Accessibility Report for your Canvas course or courses and fix the issues that are identified in the report. And then have a goal. I suggest starting now, having your goal be achieving an 85% accessibility score and making sure that all severe issues are fixed. And have that goal for your spring 2026 courses. And then by April, when this new regulation in the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, comes into force, we'll aim for 100% accessibility. But know that you are not alone. As we mentioned earlier, Utah Tech Online, UT Online, has a whole team of learning designers that are able to consult with you one-on-one to deal with any accessibility issues you might encounter, and to really deal with any course design issues to help make your course more easily navigable for all students, to make your content more appealing. They can help you do all those things and help make sure that your course is accessible. Then the help desk is a first line of technical support here at the university. Although there is 24/7 Canvas support, as most of you know, through the help menu in your Canvas courses. They also have chat support. Our help desk will escalate to Scott Allen as needed. So if you need help with specific Canvas issues, he will be available to help. And then, of course, the ADC, definitely if you need any help with accommodations or have any questions about any accessibility issue, you can contact them. So now, what questions do you have about accessibility in your Canvas courses?
I do want to add something before we start answering questions. So one may wonder, if we don't provide accommodations or if we are not accessible, what can happen? One, we will lose federal funding. The entire university could lose federal funding. If that were to happen, the university will shut down, because majority of our students receive federal grants and all that. So we could lose federal funding. Secondly, we could be sued as a university, and even sometimes even individual staff or faculty could be sued depending on who was at fault. So that is why it is very important for us to ensure that we are accessible and compliant with federal and state laws.
Yeah, now that there are the WCAG guidelines, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, are the official standard for web accessibility and course accessibility. The federal government does have the ability to say, okay, you didn't meet this standard. And so definitely lost legal compliance is an issue, and instructors can put themselves in legal liability if they fail to comply with the new technical standards. So thank you for pointing that out. We're going to hang on for a few more minutes. And then, Scott, was there anything else you wanted to show?
Maybe I'll just talk about it. The other big issue that I see as far as accessibility within Word documents itself is some of you may, commonly create headings for your various sections of your document using bold and not using the styles that are built in with Word. If you uh, that doesn't work with screen readers. Those styles are used by those screen readers to help those who are visually impaired navigate your document. So be sure to use the styles that are built in with Word, and that will make your documents more accessible.
Thank you to our presenters, Scott Allen, Baku Wahabu, and Malia Rid. And thank you all for joining today's discussion on accessibility. And remember, you are not alone in working to ensure that your Canvas courses are accessible. You have all of these resources. And again, you can schedule a personalized one-on-one consultation with your learning designer. They can help you implement ideas for designing accessible learning activities and assessments for your students.